Here's Mark Haney.
Merry Christmas. And we have been talking a lot on Entrepreneurs Unlimited about winning, about what it takes to win. I think we're in week 24, 25, aren't we, Tom?
I think so.
And today I want to acknowledge the people over at Delaware High School football. Casey Taylor and his team figured out a way to beat the odds, come back and win last night, beat Camarillo 16-13, starting from 2-6 and figuring out a way to have an unwavering belief that in the end, everything was going to be okay.
What a
They
night.
stuck to their beliefs. They stuck to their system. So why do some teams, some people end up winning, persevering, and others end up going up in flames, petering out, losing? So let me throw out this question. What does losing look like? We have a sense as to what winning looks like, but what does losing look like in business? Is it going out of business?
That's a loss.
Not living up to your potential? Folding up shop? Kicking, throwing in the towel? The end of an era? The end of a dream? Wow. That happens too. We know that happens in big business, right? You remember a company called Circuit City?
Yeah.
You remember those guys?
Yeah, absolutely.
Remember Mervyn's? Mervyn's department store?
I haven't thought about Mervyn's in ages.
Lehman Brothers. I think some of you guys remember Lehman Brothers. Arthur Anderson, big accounting firm.
Absolutely.
Gonzo, out of here.
And they were ultimately successful there for a long period of time.
No doubt. And what happened to the video store? The video store is gone. What happened to the hardware store down the street? What happened to the local TV appliance shop? Gone. Even the horse and buggy was replaced by the car. And now, I don't know what's going to replace the car. Maybe it's a self-driving car or something. But some businesses end up surviving the test of time, and others do not find a way to persevere. So what do you think causes most companies to go out of business?
Well, taking your eye off the ball, I
Yeah.
think that has a lot to do with it. I think that people inherently, at least people I have spoke with about being an entrepreneur, they get really excited about the fact that they get to make their own schedule and now they can spend more time with their kids, and they don't realize this is a 24/7 proposition.
So starting with the founder, maybe they decide not to continue to press like
Right,
they once did
right.
when they first started. They
Get a
lost
little
they lost their
complacent.
love and feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. That happens. But there's also people will end up blaming technology. Oh, the technology came and now, I can't compete anymore. Or those guys were so powerful they ended up gaining a monopoly on on that particular industry. There's reasons why people fail. Competition. Sometimes it is just poor management, poor decision making. You get yourself overextended and you just can't battle back. And I use the word can't, which is kind of interesting because maybe people can battle back.
Yeah.
Right? Obviously, Casey Taylor proved that you can battle back. We know of what about like Marvel Comics, right? They were down. They were on their deathbed, but found a way to come back through changing the way their business works. Licensing agreements now, right? All the major movies are all Marvel Comics.
True.
Right?
What about Jack in the Box? They went away there for a long time, and they are back with a vengeance.
No doubt.
They changed their marketing
They're definitely
strategy.
coming back.
Yeah.
You could take a look at Apple computers. Apple was going down to the PC. Steve Jobs comes back in, and look what Apple is today.
Yeah, you have to wait in line to buy something at the Apple store, especially this time of year.
The Kings. We almost lost the Kings, the Sacramento Kings, our beloved basketball franchise. Our players were looking for houses in Seattle at one point, right? And people stepped up. People decided to make a difference. People, I think, are the answer. And as entrepreneurs, maybe we're the answer to our own business, to our own destiny. Today, coming up in the show, you are going to meet a couple of people that understand perseverance firsthand. You are going to meet Jose Perez, entrepreneur and founder of the Latino Journal. And you're also going to meet, right after the break, you're going to meet our first guest, a guy that has defied the odds. He co-founded River Cats and is the president and co-founder of the Sac Republic FC.
Yeah.
He's going to go beyond the soccer field today and give us the inside scoop on what's going on. We're going to meet Mr. Warren Smith, the president of the Republic FC. I'm Mark Haney. You're listening to Entrepreneurs Unlimited, streaming live, podcast, and YouTube at haneybiz.com.
Now, here's Mark.
Welcome back, and we are here with Warren Smith, founder and president of our local professional soccer team, the Sac Republic FC. Good morning. How you doing this morning?
Mark, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Thanks for being here, Warren. So, a lot of cool stuff happening with the Republic. You want to give us a sense as to the latest talks about what's happening with the with MLS?
Well, before I do, I mean, there's a lot of great things happening in Sacramento, and it's just a really cool place to be, and it's rewarding to see the community coming together and really building itself, and we're just really happy to be a player in that and to make a little bit of a difference. And we're really excited about what we're doing. We've just wanted to lay a foundation to ultimately make a case and copy what has worked in other markets to eventually attract a Major League Soccer franchise. I think we're doing really well in that goal, and we continue to have our dialogue with Major League Soccer. My perception of this is, it's just a matter of time. It's not a matter of if. If you look at the commissioner's comments, he has said that, and we just have to keep our head down, keep focused, and keep working on all the things that were necessary to do. So the stadium's obviously a big piece of that, and the partnership with Kevin Nagel has been wonderful, and he's put most of the effort into getting the stadium ready. And once we define a little bit more, we'll have another dialogue with them and see where it goes from there.
How important was putting together the term sheet recently that outlines some of the details of the stadium?
Well, I think it was very important. It was one of the top. It was one of the 5 goals in what we called Operation Turnkey, named for a very specific reason. We wanted to show MLS that we were turnkey and ready, and ultimately the stadium is a big piece of that. If you look at the other markets, they've had challenges in building stadiums, and so we had multiple deliverables, and that just happened to be the last one. And it was great. We were actually able to accomplish that, a month early, and ultimately in time for our meetings, in time for the MLS Cup, which we were back at and got to enjoy.
Very cool. Very cool. So you recently had some talks at MLS, and I know there is very detailed conversations, and I know some of these are confidential. Is there anything you can share with us that might give us some hope for timing around when we get our MLS?
Yeah, that's the tough. If I may, that's the tough part. I mean, we continue to make our case. Conversations are going exceptionally well. They love Sacramento. They love what we're doing. But again, it's they have a lot of things that they need to work out, and ultimately, related to Miami and Minneapolis. And once those are done, I think we'll get a lot more attention and a lot more ability to really get into specific conversations.
How does a local professional sports franchise affect the identity of a community?
Well, you tell me. I mean, I've seen it firsthand, obviously, in my role with the River Cats, and there's nothing better than providing the place for people to gather, come together as one. Where else do we do that? If you think about it, malls maybe. But here we come together and actually root for a common cause, and we all have different backgrounds, different parts of our community, different classes, and ultimately we come together as one. And that's, to me, that is what this is all about. How do we bring people together? How do we actually have fun together? How do we root together? And then celebrate our great town, right? And we're just a reflection of that, and we're just one piece of how do we actually celebrate this great community?
Chris and a number of in our control room is a big fan of soccer and the Republic specifically. He's one of those crazy guys that sits up in the stands, and so many people rally around what we're doing. You're selling out every game. what can the fans expect, I guess, in the coming, this next season and so on?
But first of all, it's the first time I've seen him without a beer.
He's wearing his Red Sox cap, but sometimes he's in the Republic gear. I'm wearing my Republic shirt. I'm a fan.
Yeah, he's wearing his Man City jersey and
Yeah.
watching the EPL. It's what they can expect is this, essentially our vision as a company is to really celebrate this great region but make it the most inspiring, energetic, and rewarding place to live, work, and play. So it's really that you don't hear anything about soccer in that, right? So we do that by providing experiences that are fun, energetic, and ultimately people leave with smiles. So we like to say that we're in the smile business. So when they come and come out to a match, we hope that they may not know soccer, but they come and are wowed by the excitement, the Tower Bridge Battalion, and how electric they are, and ultimately created an experience that is fun, and that's what this is all about. And when we build a new stadium, and it won't just be about fun in the event; it's the fun outside of the community. You gather with your friends before and after a match, and march to the match together, and ultimately see our team win.
You talked about the company and the mission and the vision a little bit. Sometimes we don't think of sports as a business, but it really is a business. Is the Sacramento Republic a startup? What stage are you in?
Oh, well, we're very much a startup. It was. If you've been to our office and you saw the look and the feel, and that's very out of design. We wanted to make sure that people felt that it's all inclusive. Number one, number two, that
Great vibe in your office, by the way. Great vibe.
Well, I appreciate that. It was our goal in locating there, and the thing about soccer that's different than most other sports. I mean, this truly is. It's how does the group work together that leads to success, right? More than any other sport that I've seen, but we also carry that through the business as well. And very much we have Friday afternoon meetings where we gather and talk about kind of what went well this week, what we're looking for next week, and kind of how we're pacing. But it is very much a business. We're probably maturing in that startup phase. We're 3 years into the business and 2 years into season. So we just finished our values and that we developed together as a group, our vision, our mission, and really working on the culture. If when we get to MLS, and we want to make sure that culture continues to grow and continues to bring people to us.
As a startup, I know you must run into some major challenges. What are the biggest challenges you faced?
Oh, I think, gosh, that's a very good question. Every week there's a new challenge, and I think it's really just making sure that we have the confidence and don't overreact to information that we garner. Never get too high, never get too low, and I think that's the real challenge for people. Because they're excited about what we're doing, they're excited about what we've been able to accomplish, they're excited about what's coming next. But keeping them focused, keeping people excited about what we're doing, and when we talk to our customers, it's not about soccer. I mean, yes, soccer is a piece of it, but it's how do we together develop this community?
How important is it to have a great team?
Oh, it's essential.
Not just behind the scenes and on the field. You need a great team. You're in the news all the time.
Well, we going back to the culture. If you look at some of the most successful franchises, San Francisco Giants are one of the best examples right now. They had a cultural change in the very beginning. When they built Pac Bell Park and moved, they've kind of gone through a transition where it's now the front office and the team are very aligned. Wasn't always the case. It hasn't always. And in sports, you used to have this dividing line between the team side and the business side, and what we have found is, the more that we can link those, the more that the team understands our goals, objectives, and we understand as a business their goals and objectives, and the more we actually kind of march together, ultimately, we have a lot more success. So it's really, team in the business is as essential as a team on the field.
Let's talk a little bit about Warren Smith. You've done more than just soccer. You were instrumental in bringing baseball here. Give us a background of your entrepreneurial resume.
Thanks, Mark. Real quick technology background. AT&T Wireless. Bought the company I was with, McCaw Cellular. Wanted to have passion in my work, and no disrespect to AT&T at the time, or AT&T Wireless. We became very corporate and very very structured, and that wasn't me. But I was looking for passion, and just happened to have a really good friend in Kevin McClatchy, who tried to bring Major League Baseball to Sacramento, and ultimately left to Pittsburgh to bring that. And I think I was sharing with you, driving to the airport one night, and I said, don't give up on Sacramento. We deserve at least AAA baseball. And he said, I can't do it, so why don't you do it? And that led to some thoughts and conversations, and fortunately we were able to put together a platform that ultimately led to Art Savage investing with us, and built Raley Field, and ultimately the Sacramento Rivercats to town. And it's just been, very rewarding. Through that process, though, we got to learn a lot, right? We got to learn how to operate a business in sports, and we're fortunate to have run the Portland Beavers AAA baseball team, and when they were in bankruptcy, came with a little soccer team called the Portland Timbers. Just won the MLS championship, by the way. And they were in USL, and we actually didn't know anything about soccer, and looked at the potential of closing them, and realized we couldn't do that if we wanted to keep the facility open, so we had to operate it. And we learned a lot. We learned that Sacramento is very similar to Portland demographically, psychographically, and that it wasn't that hard selling tickets in soccer. So ultimately, as we're going through the Kings operation, and ultimately are trying to keep our Kings in town.
Right.
My perception of that was 13 years of really dark conversations, and then at one point, as you know, they looked like they were leaving. But my point was, we weren't growing. We're still the most underserved professional sports team in the country, or sports city in the country, and we deserve more than just the Kings.
How would you contrast the River Cats experience in bringing them to town and with the Republic?
Well, I think the biggest difference, frankly, I think there's more similarities than there is, but it's really a different demographic. It's a different. We serve different clients. Baseball's a sport that the average age is 48 years old, and in soccer and MLS, it's in the 28-year. So we're really dealing with
much younger group of people,
and so it's really the sport of the millennials, and who's after the millennials will be even bigger. So I think that's the biggest difference that you see, but ultimately there's so many similarities. It's a business, right? You just open the gates, put smiles on people's faces, and hope they come back.
What's different about what millennials are looking for than old guys like me?
Well, it's the experience. I think old guys like you and I kind of go for the sport, right? You may be a baseball fan, but I think the millennials are going for the experience. It's not just the match itself, which is, part of that, right? It's very electric. It's different. It's energetic. And I think, but it's also what happens before and after. And soccer is a 2-hour event versus the other sports that are average of 3. And, when I used to get a babysitter, I wanted to be able to, spend more time than 2 hours out, right? So, usually the average is about 4.5 to 5 hours that people want to spend. And so that group, that millennials really live for experience. As you know, they invest in not things, they invest in experiences, travel,
right.
And they're not buying homes, they're renting. And it's just a very dynamic shift in kind of the way you and I were brought up.
How did the demographics beyond the age? How did the other demographics in Sacramento help with the Republic?
Well, I think one of the biggest dynamic shifts is this. We have world-class suburban locations here, and over the last 30 years, we have really grown and provided just great places to live. But during that time, we didn't necessarily have a downtown that was thriving. But now what you're seeing is a downtown and midtown that is truly, truly thriving. You see just a huge growth in restaurants. You see people moving into the city, and so there's this now desire to especially with that millennial group, to live in that core, to participate in that core, and which plays right into soccer, right? That's one of the reasons MLS was so focused on downtown urban core stadiums, because they recognize that that group wants to be entertained before and after. They also don't want to drive cars. They want to catch public transportation, ride bikes, walk, and you can't do that in suburban locations. So with what we are seeing in downtown, what we're investing in downtown, what Kevin Nagel's investing in downtown, it's just amazing. And to be a part of that is so cool.
So right now, you guys are having no problem selling out, and people are driving with the kids to go from the suburban areas to come watch. So as Sacramento gets built out, that is just going to be wind at your back as all the development happens. You mentioned Kevin Nagel building stuff, and
Sure.
a lot of other developers. That's just going to be wind at your back.
Well, we're just helping to, I think, propagate and just one play. Yeah, obviously, building the arena downtown, it's huge. Look what's happening to, some of the land plays and developments that are happening around there now. And all we're doing is, helping to add to that. I do want to say, though, it's not, I wouldn't say that we've had no problem. I mean, it's a lot of, blocking and tackling, blood, sweat, and tears to get it, to make it happen. But ultimately, the people are responding and coming to us. But I think downtown is, it's, from where we are right now, 10 years from now, it's just going to be so different.
Warren Smith, founder, president of the Sacramento Republic FC. When we come back, I'm going to ask Warren to share a little bit about perseverance and how to overcome those very, very difficult things that you run into in business and in life. You're listening to Entrepreneurs Unlimited on Sports 1140 KHTK, streaming live, podcast, and YouTube at HaneyBiz.com.
Once again, here's Mark Haney.
Welcome back. We are here with Warren Smith, founder and president of our local professional soccer team, the Sac Republic FC. And he is an entrepreneur. Warren, you've built a number of businesses. Let's go inside the mind of a successful entrepreneur. What's it take to win? And tell us about some of the stories about how you have overcome the odds.
Yeah, well, I've been trying to think about that, knowing that we're going to be talking about that today, and frankly, it's interesting. I didn't know I was going to be an entrepreneur. I didn't know what I wanted to do in life, but everyone kept telling me I should be in sales. But I remember as a kid actually picking up a little magazine called Entrepreneur Magazine, and I remember reading that all the time and just going, "Wow, how cool is that?" The great thing about our country is that we have the freedom to create and the freedom to do what drives our soul, right? And accomplish everything. So for me, I mean, it's really just about having a vision and ultimately getting around great people to help accomplish a common goal. And but also, I think I don't think entrepreneurs can really be successful without some failure. And failure actually helps you grow. And if you're not trying, then you're probably not failing. You're probably not learning. You're probably not going to be successful. So for me, it started with sales, and I had some failure in sales, and I actually almost was fired by AT&T. Moved into major accounts and started swinging for trying to hit home runs. And remember my boss telling me, Clyde Casciato, great man. He said, Warren, stop trying to, eat an elephant. Got to put some squirrels on the table. And he said, I need to eat too.
So those home runs turned into base hits, it sounds like.
But I ended up, doing really well and actually, hit a number of home runs there. But I've been so fortunate. And for me, I've just happened to be a man of faith, and I'm really believe that I'm here for a reason, and right now that reason is to help make Sacramento a better place. So I try to focus on that, try to get our group to focus on that, and ultimately just trust them, trust myself, trust the man upstairs, and ultimately good things will happen.
We talked about values during the break, and one of your values at the Republic is perseverance. Mm-hmm. And I know that your father did 3 tours in Vietnam, so you're an Army brat. Mm-hmm. What shaped you early on to give you that drive to keep going even when things are tough?
Well, I think, growing up in the military and moving a lot, we had to, we had to always meet new people, get ingrained in the community, and frankly, that was hard. That was hard as a kid, and I think that was one.
So that sounds like a difficult situation. That I mean, now you're a people person. It's what you do for a living.
Yeah, I think that I think that's one of the one of the key reasons why people are successful. They're able to interact and talk and ultimately help other people, right? So, but perseverance to me is, we've got to, even this business, we're going to have challenges, and we just have to believe that there's a way around the challenge in front of us. There's a way over it, under it, and we just have to think about everything, Probably heard, go through these leadership things, and, that's interesting. There was one that participated in where they drop a tennis. You have a group in the room, you have everyone in the room where everyone has to touch a tennis ball before it has to, touch the ground. So, they drop it and somebody catches it and they pass it around, and it takes, 2.5, 3 minutes for it to go around the room. And they said, the group, then the leader says, hey, that's not good enough. Think better. Think differently. And so they come up with a different idea, and people just touch the ball real quick.
Yeah.
They get it down in a minute and a half. And so we'll think differently. What can we do differently? And let's challenge ourselves. And finally they drop the ball, and it just goes through everybody's, they put their hands on top of each other, and everyone drops the ball to the next group of hands, and it takes, 10 seconds, right? So
yes.
I think the key is, understanding there are going to be challenges that we're going to, we need to think differently, because frankly, the human way is, the easy way, right? We generally are people of comfort and try to be comfortable, and that doesn't work for entrepreneurs, as you know. You have to completely challenge yourself to think differently and be different. And I think that's, at least that's one of the things that for us is important. But also knowing that we're going to make our mistakes, and we're going to learn from those.
Besides the man upstairs and yourself, who do you credit for your success more than anybody else?
I'm blessed. I mentioned Clyde Cachado, Roy Message. Both of my managers that I had at AT&T, met a gentleman, became very good friends with him, who was the former CEO of Raley's, and became a mentor to me, Chuck Collins, and who we lost a couple years ago. But he, when we were talking about, I negotiated with him on putting Raley's, name on Raley Field, and we just developed a friendship. And he really taught me a lot about how to interact with people, but also to bring the Lord to our work and do in ways that actually are not offensive, but ultimately help people. And so I think having people that I've worked for as mentors, another one, Bob Woods, who is still in our community, just great people who really helped me understand myself, understand also that together as a group we can really accomplish great things.
Thank you. We're talking here with Warren Smith. We're getting inside the mind of a very successful entrepreneur, a man that has brought multiple sports teams to our town. I just want to say thank you for the great work that you do in the community, Warren. It's a pleasure having you on the show. Great to know you, and I think we're all blessed to be able to have the opportunity to hear your story. I'm Mark Haney. Coming up in the show, you're going to hear the story of Jose Perez and how he built the Latino Journal. You're listening to Entrepreneurs Unlimited on Sports 1140 KHTK, streaming live, podcast, and YouTube at HaneyBiz.com.
Once again, here's Mark Haney.
Welcome back, and we have the opportunity to meet Jose Perez, entrepreneur and founder of the Latino Journal. How you doing today, Jose?
Very good. Thank you, Mark.
Good. You're sitting over here in the plaster concrete chair. Plaster concrete, it's guaranteed to crack and guaranteed that nobody will ever steal it. So thanks for joining us today. On behalf of Plaster Concrete, welcome.
Thank you.
And so, Jose, the Latino Journal, describe your publication.
Well, this is my third career, Mark. And I was a farm worker for 10 years. I worked for the state of California for 23 years.
Wow.
Then in 1996, I started the Latino Journal.
How
which
old
is
are you
almost-
anyway?
I know.
Wait a minute
you
now.
would
That
think
adds up
I'm
to a
like
lot of years
80.
here. I think your math.
You would think
Let me check the
I'm
math
like
on that,
80.
Jose.
Yeah, do the math.
That makes you 96 years old. I don't think that's
no,
possible.
it means that I started working when I was 8 years old.
Attaboy.
And but anyway, the Latino Journal is 20 years old. And it was started after I left state service. I was an executive with Caltrans.
Oh.
And I had 1,100 employees, and it was
Wow.
very interesting.
Underneath you had 1,100 employees. And were
And-
they standing on the side of the road, or
Not,
what were they?
No, they were
They were working-
administrators.
oh,
They were,
administrative guys,
yeah,
okay,
and so
gotcha.
they were office folks. And so, but long story short, I was very impressed with what happened with one of our local business guys, C.C. Myers.
Yeah, I've heard of that guy.
Yeah, of course. Very, very fantastic bridge builder.
Yes.
And so after the Loma Prieta earthquake, he was hired on an emergency contract to go down there and basically rebuild the bridges. And part of the contract provisions was a $100,000 bonus for every day that he brought the construction schedule shorter.
Yeah,
And
he's famous
so-
for bringing stuff in on time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a brilliant strategy, and it was a really good thing for the public because we were losing a lot of money because the infrastructure wasn't up there, so the commercial impact was very significant. Long story short, that really impressed me with the $14.5 million bonus that he got out of that contract. And I was working for the state, and I thought to myself, I got to take a look at that. And I'm a fairly smart guy. I get along with people. I had to try something and try the private
So-
sector.
Okay, so we don't have a ton of time. But so you started the Latino Journal.
Right.
Why focus on the Latino? What's the Latino focus?
The reason
purpose?
for that is because California has a very large Latino population. It's actually now the largest ethnic group in California. And so it's a very large community with incredible purchasing power. And in 1990, the purchasing power was $119 billion. And I thought about starting a business that could mirror basically what was going on in mainline society, but addressing the Latino market. And it was really a successful strategy because it worked as I thought it would. The Latino Journal focuses on public policy and government. It's a special niche publication. And I hate to say this, but it goes to the 1% of the 1%. And so, we don't have to, go out and draw, millions. All we have to do is go after the key influencers. And so that strategy worked.
The key influences within the Latino community.
Everyone,
Oh.
because there's folks who are trying to get access into Latino community, and there's Latino community that's trying to understand and better get into American society, and so it works both ways. And so that was the key. And so the Latino Journals, we're almost hitting our 20 years in July next year. So
What differences do you see between the Latino community and the rest of the community in terms of reaching those folks?
that's a really good point. The Latino community is like other immigrant populations in the past, with like Irish and Italians, and that they come with their cultures, their languages, and it takes time for assimilation to American society. Same thing's going on with the Latino community. So we have a very large, upperly mobile segment that's moving on up in society. They're getting well educated. They're becoming middle class, and some of them are becoming very successful entrepreneurs, like Doreen Dominguez here in Sacramento, who's building this skyscraper, one of the owners of the Sacramento Republic. And so we have people that are moving on up in American society. And so what we've discovered is that the needs of the Latino community are no different than the needs of anyone else. And essentially they're looking for the same thing. They're looking for security for their kids. They're looking for good education. A lot of them are very religious, mostly Catholic. And so they're very strong Christian. And they have a very tremendous work ethic. And so, there are some issues that, like in any community, that they're trying to address. But overall, it's our publication basically helps deal in smoothing out some of the rough edges so that they can better mainstream into America.
And Latinos tend to vote more Democrat than Republican. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. And so who are you supporting in the upcoming presidential race?
Well, actually, Latino Journal is nonpartisan, and so personally, I don't take positions because
Okay.
of that, because of our professional responsibility. But we are holding a voters education forum on January 20th here in Sacramento, and we're inviting the candidates for the United States Senate. We're having the pros and cons and the ballot initiatives that are coming up next year, and there's a whole bunch of them. And then we're having some dialogue with some legislators about what their policy initiatives are for 2016. And just as another comment, is Latino Journal's next edition actually is focused on soccer, with a big focus on some of the comments that Warren Smith was sharing with us earlier, and the excitement and the participation of all segments of our populations around soccer. It is a unifier. And so, but what we've discovered is that we have a congressional soccer caucus. We have political and policy people who are actually very interested in what's going on in that dynamic. And so, we're very happy to be part of what's going on in Sacramento.
Jose Perez, building the American dream, helping others in the Latino community to help build their dreams as well. As we wrap up this segment, I want to take a moment to touch on one of our sponsors, and it's a little bit of a story about perseverance. Placer Concrete in the early 2000s was doing well, and then it ran into 2008 and faced the same thing that so many people face. They ran into just a really tough situation where they had no business. And the way that Bob Garrison and the guys at Placer survived that was nothing short of miraculous. They shrunk the company down. They had been focusing on large custom homes and decorative concrete and really the high-end part of the concrete business in the Sacramento area. And then when the economy hit, they were forced to really cut back, and they really scrapped for everything. And this contractor, Bob Garrison, called a dreamer, and that may have been his worst mistake. He called this dreamer and said, hey, can you come in and partner with me on my business? And so this dreamer came in and helped spend a bunch more money, and they ran into even more difficulty trying new things between 2008 and 2010 and 2012. But I'm proud to say that Placer Concrete, which is one of my companies, and my business partner Bob Garrison, has really righted the ship. And from going from just scrapping to, he's still scrapping, but really having to take any kind of construction job possible, that now as the economy's come back, the fact that he was able to cut back and move from a luxury home down into a smaller home with a yard and cut back on some of the employees. He's now rebuilt, and in this year, he's on track to have his biggest year ever. And Bob, I'm so proud of you. You are a great example of perseverance and how to win in business. And I'm so proud that you're sponsoring this show, and we hope to make you proud. So keep up the good work, Bob. I know the 2016 looks good for you. Coming up in the show, I'm going to have some closing thoughts about perseverance and why some people persevere and others just tend to go away. I'm Mark Haney. You're listening to Entrepreneurs Unlimited on Sports 1140 KHTK, streaming live podcast and YouTube on HaneyBiz.com.
Once again, here's Mark Haney.
So we've been discussing why some businesses make it, some businesses find a way to persevere, some businesses are still standing after difficult periods, and why some businesses are just businesses that we used to know, right? Businesses that have gone away. And I think the answer is kind of come out today. Perseverance. It's perseverance that has allowed these businesses to survive, to make it through the difficult times. But why? And I think we've decided that it's the people behind that perseverance, the entrepreneurs, the business people that have helped these companies to survive. But so many parts of our society these days are saying you need to depend on other people, right? There's a way of thinking that I think is beginning to permeate our society over these last several years, where perseverance is not as commonplace as it once was, where you're relying on other people to help you do the job, relying on the government to help you in a bailout type of situation, where, people just, it feels like sometimes people just haven't grown up yet, and they haven't decided to take winning into their own hands, take winning, as their own, to look in the mirror and go, if I'm going to win, I guess it's up to me to do it.
Take responsibility.
It's funny, and I think the society has helped us create that. We're crybabying at one point when you're a little kid becomes blaming the boss when you get older. Pouting as a little child becomes not resolving issues as you get older. Complaining as a child becomes sitting around the barber shop talking about all the problems that are in our world and how they're not going to get solved. And temper tantrums, they become alienating your partners. And for some reason, it's become okay not to grow up, to be a baby. You can see it in sports. You see professional athletes who don't get the call, and they start giving that appendicitis face, like they're in this serious pain. And it's just a call that didn't go their way. I'm not going to name any names, DeMarcus Cousins. But, there's some people that they blame other people when things aren't going their way. But I think when you find people who are going to build successful teams around them, they're going to rally the teams around them with a positive, go forward, can do, let's make it happen. And I think what's true on the sports field, what's true at Del Oro High School, what these guys do, what Casey Taylor and his team does in building a winning program, they say we're just going to do this. We're going to have an unwavering belief that in the end, everything's going to be okay. They're not going to complain to the refs. There's no one, as an entrepreneur, there is no one to blame. You have nobody to blame when you're an entrepreneur. You look around, if you haven't grown up yet, when you become an entrepreneur, you either grow up or you go out of business. You're Circuit City, you're Mervyn's. See you later. Sayonara. So as we go into this holiday season, I think back to how do we develop our discovery of perseverance? How do we become those guys that win? And I just have to think of role models are really the guys that help us to figure out who we're going to be. And I'm going to share a quick story about a role model, and it's a Christmas story about my mother and father and their story of a Christmas of perseverance. And we didn't have a lot of money as kids. And I remember one year I was 5. There's 4 kids, all under the age of 7 years old. And Christmas time was coming, and we were all so anxious for the big day when Santa Claus was going to come. And I remember that my dad was working in the entryway on these projects, and I didn't really know what he was working on. I said, "Mom, what's Dad working on?" And my mom would always say, "Mark, he's working on a labor of love." I'm like, I didn't know what that meant. So you keep working throughout the holiday period. "Mom, what's Dad working on? What's he doing?" "Don't worry, Mark, it's a labor of love." Well, we woke up Christmas morning, and it was the best Christmas we had ever had. My sister had gotten a vanity table, which was an old wooden case that old wooden dresser they paid $1 for. My brother Paul got a one of my hand-me-down little horses that you play around, and I got a Christmas jail. Right? I got this cardboard jail. My dad was a TV repairman, worked at a TV appliance place, and he had brought home a big refrigerator box, and he had built this gigantic jail, and I got this little badge. My big gift was the jail and this little badge, and I was the sheriff, and I had my guns out, which happened to be my fingers. I got to arrest my brothers and sisters, and it was the best Christmas of our lives. It was one that we'll never remember, and it all cost less than $10 because they didn't have the money. They had to figure out a way to persevere,
It was a
work
labor
through
of
it.
love.
It was a labor of love. And so as we look at this holiday season, I guess, all I want this year, Uriah Faber gave me a gift, those one of those shaker weights. right? We had
Yeah,
a party
yeah.
at his house the other night, so I got that gift, and now all I need, is really some time with my grandchildren. I need some respect from my family, my son, and my daughter, and my wife. If I have their respect, I feel like I'm going to be okay. And I think all I'm hoping for right now is that my business partners, my show partners, you guys, Greg out there, a couple people back at the office, Clint and Rachel, my teammates, that I hope that we together can have a Christmas jail kind of Christmas, and that we can find a way to persevere. God bless all the people out there that are struggling to chase their dreams. I pray that God gives us the strength to keep on fighting the good fight, and I pray that He shed His grace on this great country that we share as we work through our battle to make this the best country in the world. Never above you, never below you.
Always by your side.
Muskie's